Pain is not a sign to quit. It's a sign you're close. It's a sign you're close. What if every time you felt like giving up, you were actually standing 1 inch away from the breakthrough you've been bleeding for? What if the universe doesn't reward the most talented but the one who simply refuses to fold when everything goes dark? Here's the brutal truth nobody tells you. The people who made it didn't have less pain than you. They had the same sleepless nights, the same empty bank accounts, the same people laughing at their dreams. The only difference? They decided pain was data, not a death sentence. Think about it. A seed buried underground is in complete darkness. It has no proof the sun exists, but it pushes anyway. And one day it breaks through concrete. That's not luck. That's what happens when you stay committed past the point where your feelings are lying to you. Your feelings will tell you it's over. Your feelings will say you're not enough. But your feelings have never built anything. Your decisions have. Your consistency has. Your refusal to stop has. The moment you interpret pain as feedback instead of failure, everything changes. You stop running from hard. You start running through it. Nobody successful had a perfect starting point. What if the people you admire most started with less than you have right now? And the only advantage they had was they never used their circumstances as an excuse. This is the part that should shake you. Most people are waiting for the right time, the right money, the right conditions. But the right time is a lie your fear invented to keep you comfortable. Nobody who changed their life did it from a position of perfect readiness. They were scared. They were broke. They were doubted. They were unqualified by everyone's standards, including their own. And they did it anyway. You think you need more before you can start. You don't. You need to start so you can get more. The action creates the clarity. The motion creates the momentum. The doing creates the version of you that knows how. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're not missing something secret that everyone else has. You're just waiting for a permission slip that nobody is coming to hand you. The hard news is there's no perfect launch pad. The good news? There doesn't need to be. Your starting point is right now, exactly as broken, confused, and unready as you feel. Quitting is permanent, but failure is temporary. What if every failure you've ever had an expiry date, but quitting was the only thing that made it permanent? Let that land. Failure has a shelf life. It ends when you try again. But quitting? Quitting freezes the story right there, at the worst chapter, before the comeback, before the plot twist, before everything you worked for starts compounding. The most dangerous thing about quitting isn't the time you lose, it's the identity you adopt. The moment you quit, you start to see yourself as someone who quits. And that belief becomes the lens through which you make every decision that follows. You quit the business, then you quit the relationship, then you quit the diet, then you quit on yourself. Because the muscle you built was the quitting muscle. Every failure you pushed through, that was a rep. That was you training the resilience that will carry you across the finish line. You are not your failures. You are the sum of how many times you stood back up. Failure is a teacher with a brutal teaching style, but its lesson is always the same. Here's what not to do next time. Quitting never teaches you anything. It just leaves you wondering. Your environment is either building you or killing you. What if the reason you keep losing momentum isn't your work ethic, your talent, or your plan, but the 5 people sitting closest to you every single day? This is the one nobody wants to hear. You can have the best goals in the world, but if you're surrounded by people who've made peace with mediocrity, their gravity will pull you down every time. Not because they're bad people, but because comfort is contagious. Complacency spreads, and so does ambition. So does excellence. So does the belief that more is possible. The people around you are constantly sending you signals about what's normal, what's acceptable, what's enough. If their ceiling is your floor, you grow. If their ceiling is your ceiling, you flatline. The books on your shelf, the podcasts in your ears, the conversations you allow, these are not small things. These are the inputs that shape every output. Every thought you have tomorrow is being preloaded today by what you consume and who you sit with. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you need to get ruthlessly honest about who is building you up and who is quietly, kindly, lovingly pulling you down. Your environment is not neutral. It's either your launch pad or your anchor. The version of you that wins already exists. What if the most successful version of you isn't something you have to become, but something you have to unbecome? Everything that's covering it up. You were not born afraid. You were not born doubting yourself. You were not born believing you weren't enough. That was installed. By failure, by rejection, by people who projected their own limitations onto you. The winning version of you already exists in potential form. It's buried under years of you can't, you're not smart enough. That's not realistic. Who do you think you are? And here's what's terrifying and beautiful at the same time. That version doesn't need you to find new skills first. It needs you to drop the false beliefs that are acting like dead weight on a rocket. The moment you stop agreeing with the narrative that you're not capable, not ready, not worthy, everything accelerates. Athletes don't become champions by adding something new. They become champions by removing every habit, belief, and behavior that slows them down. You are the clay. You are also the sculptor. The question is whether you're going to keep chipping away at what doesn't belong or protect the block and never find out what was inside. The day you almost quit was the day things were about to change. What if the exact moment you felt most like giving up was the universe testing whether you were serious? And most people fail the test by 3 feet from gold. This is backed by history. Every person who made it has a story that sounds the same. I was about to quit. I had 1 week left. I made one more call. I sent one more email. I showed up one more day. And that one more was the one that changed everything. The problem is that darkness before the dawn feels identical to just regular darkness. You can't tell the difference from inside it. So your brain lies to you and says, this is the end, when it's actually the beginning of the breakthrough.
Thomas Edison didn't know he was one experiment away. He just refused to stop being one experiment away. You don't need to know the breakthrough is coming. You just need to stay in the game long enough for it to find you.
Most people drop out of the race at mile 24 of a 26-mile marathon, not because they couldn't finish, but because nobody told them how close they actually were. This is me telling you. You are closer than you think. Don't you dare stop now. Listen to this before you give up. What if I told you the version of you that succeeds, that builds the life, the freedom, the impact you actually want, is not waiting on more money, more time, more talent, or more luck? What if I told you that version is waiting on one thing and one thing only, the decision to not stop today? You're here right now, and that means something. It means part of you hasn't quit yet. Hold on to that part. That part is smarter than your doubt. Let me talk to you like someone who actually gives a damn about where you end up. Pain is not a sign to quit. Pain is a signal that you're in the middle of something real. Everything that matters in life is built through a season that felt unbearable while it was happening. The gym hurts before the strength comes. The business bleeds before it breathes. The relationship cracks before it deepens. Pain is not the problem. Pain is the process. And the people who make it aren't the ones who find a shortcut around the hard. They're the ones who go straight through it and come out forged. You don't need less pain. You need a bigger reason. When your why is strong enough, the how becomes survivable. Nobody who ever built something extraordinary had a perfect starting point. Nobody. The people you look up to started broken, underfunded, doubted, and unqualified. They weren't chosen. They chose themselves. And that is the distinction that separates the ones who make it from the ones who watch. You were sitting here waiting for the green light, the perfect moment, the stars to align. But the stars don't align for the waiting. They align for the moving. You take one step, the next step reveals itself. You make one decision, the next decision becomes clear. You are not missing something. You are not behind. You are simply one committed action away from momentum. And momentum is what changes everything. Here's the one that will hurt. Quitting is permanent, but failure is temporary. Every single failure you've experienced has an expiry date. It ends the moment you try again. But quitting freezes your story at the worst chapter, forever. The version of you that quits today becomes the person who has to live with the question, what if I hadn't, for the rest of their life? And that question is heavier than any failure you've ever faced. The people who win aren't the ones who never fall. They're the ones who built a relationship with falling, who got comfortable getting back up so many times that standing back up became automatic. Every time you got back up, you were training a muscle. Keep training it. Look at your environment. Look at it honestly. The people around you are not neutral forces. They are either pulling you forward or anchoring you in place. And if everyone around you has made peace with average, their peace will become your ceiling. You don't have to hate them, you don't have to leave them, but you have to feed yourself differently. The books, the voices, the inputs, the conversations you allow, those are shaping your beliefs about what's possible every single day without you realizing it. Start protecting your mind like it's the most valuable asset you own. Because it is, your mind is the factory. Everything else is just the output. The version of you that wins. It already exists. You're not trying to build someone new. You're trying to remove everything covering the person you were always capable of being. The doubt was installed, the fear was learned, the belief that you're not enough was given to you by people who had the same belief given to them. You can return it. You can reject it. You can wake up tomorrow and decide that the narrative changes today, right now, in this moment. Not because everything is fixed, but because you decided it's time to stop agreeing with the lie. And listen, this is the most important thing I'll say today. The day you feel most like giving up is almost always the day you are closest to the breakthrough. Darkness before dawn feels exactly like just more darkness. You can't tell the difference from inside the storm. But history is full of people who pushed through one more day and found everything they were working for on the other side. The tragedy is not failure. The tragedy is the person who was 3 feet from gold and dropped the shovel. Don't be that person, not today. So here is where we land. Everything you want, the freedom, the success, the version of yourself you know you're capable of, is sitting on the other side of the decision to not quit today, not tomorrow, today, right now, this moment. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a made-up mind. You don't need validation. You need a commitment to yourself that is stronger than your excuses. The world has enough people who almost made it. It's waiting for you to actually make it. And you will, if you simply refuse to stop. The story isn't over. It's just getting to the best part. What if the only difference between you and the person living the life you want is that they simply didn't stop on the day you're thinking about stopping right now? What if your breakthrough isn't months away? What if it's days away, maybe hours, and the only variable is whether you quit before it finds you? Because here's the truth, most people will never say out loud, the pain you're feeling right now is not a sign that you chose the wrong path. It's proof you chose a real one. Easy paths don't hurt. Only the ones worth walking do. You didn't come this far through every rejection, every failure, every night you doubted yourself to stop here. The people who made it weren't more talented, they weren't luckier. They were just too stubborn to let their worst day become their last decision. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because what I'm about to say might be the only thing standing between you and everything you've been working for. Don't move.